Hello, and welcome to our Scorpio Season Contemplation. You'll see down in the description box and over in the live chat, I have listed out the notable aspects for Scorpio season. There are many, many more, depending on how many things you're tracking. For that, I have to give a shout out to an astrologer who I have absolutely fallen in love with. Her channel is called Aubrey Stars, and I will link it in the description below. She does 3 videos a week on the day-by-day astrological aspects. Hello, welcome. Such good interpretations, and she is also a Scorpio South Node, Taurus North Node, which I know many of you guys are too. So her vibe is so empowering and so grounded, yet very very deep read on the energy, and she tracks lots of different bodies in the asking. So that came out. So there you go. There's a recommendation. Check out her channel if you haven't. Her 3 videos a week are very helpful for grounding in these intense freaking times that we are living in right now. There's so much going on. Our souls are evolving at what feels like a pace that's almost too fast. I don't know if anybody else is resonating with that, but it's like electric how quickly, so much can happen in a day. So much can happen just in 24 hours. So these are intense times. And the first thing that I want to offer for Scorpio season is that the intensity is most likely going to increase, and that this can be a really great time for evaluating and working on cultivating your own spiritual support. So that can be people in the physical, like channels like Owning Authenticity, if that counts for you, if it helps you to feel better in these crazy times we're living in. Aubrey Stars, that's a huge source for me. I also life coach. Her channel on YouTube is called Galactic Mystic. She does some great interpretations. So like there's places like that where you can drink from the well for free, so to speak, by, watching public content. I also, though, feel like Scorpio season is going to have us leaning even closer in on the soul family relationships that are supporting and nurturing our empowerment journey at this time. I think many of us have people who have showed up in our life that are helping to reflect back to us, like on a regular basis, who we really are. And those reflections, as far as like them helping us to see who we really are, it's like that's where, Scorpio is very tied with empowerment. Like when we get face to face with the energy of another, with being able to be reflected to by another, the opportunity to come even more profoundly into our own power, to have another be able to illuminate, where is our energy blocked and where could we serve our own empowerment by removing those blocks. And a lot of times it's like things like our belief system or our view of ourself, our perception of the world. All of these things can play a part in how much of our consciousness is able to manifest through our vessel. And Scorpio in general, kind of before we get into the specific aspects, we'll talk here just a little bit about Scorpio and Taurus. So anytime the sun enters a sign, the earth is always in the sign opposite. So the sun and the earth are a polarity in the natal chart. So when we have the sun entering Scorpio at 0 degrees on October 23rd, we will also then have the earth entering Taurus at 0 degrees October 23rd. They move exactly in tandem with each other. So when we have the sun in Scorpio, we automatically have that entire axis lit up, with Scorpio being more the conscious part with the sun there, and Taurus being more the unconscious part with the earth there. And let me tell you why that's really interesting, because of the Taurus Scorpio, duo, Taurus is the earth sign, aka the more tangible, you can see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it version of it. And Scorpio is the unconscious. It's like the hidden depths of like what you don't even really realize about yourself because it's in your unconscious subconscious. So the fact that they're flip-flopped during Scorpio season, it's like this is a 30-day window with the sun moving through Scorpio, the earth moving through Taurus, where I think what's going to be happening is essentially our own soul's closet, if you will. Like we're going to be cleaning out the closets in our body. So like any of the stored pain, any of the stored trauma, like if we think about that unconscious earth archetype in the sign of Taurus, it's like what lives unconsciously inside your body. And the sun in Scorpio is lighting up those shadowy depths and the hidden truths that you aren't yet familiar with. And so there, I think, is a lot of potential for kind of clearing out the pipes. This was an analogy that somebody said to me yesterday, and it was absolutely brilliant as far as like, you know, the pipes of like how much of your soul is able to flow through your body, how much of your consciousness is able to come through your vessel. Um, Another way to say that, like, I believe we're all extensions of God. We're all extensions of God consciousness. So, how much of your conscious perception of yourself is that God self compared to the 3D self, or the programmed perception that you were taught about yourself when you got here from the people that were there to greet you? Um, so where is your sense of self-identity coming from? And that question is really important because our identity is kind of like the valve. It's like who you believe yourself to be is the amount of power that you're letting yourself have. So if you believe that you're a 3D human being who was born to these couple of people and I'm going to live and work until I die, like this is all I am, that's the size of the power that you're letting yourself hold. And if you expand your identity, if you expand your belief about who are you residing inside of this body, the bigger your identity can expand, the bigger you believe yourself to be. That is essentially the journey of empowerment. I love the definition of self-esteem, where essentially self-esteem, I would say, is a kind of another word for power. But self-esteem, all that is in a given situation, what are the choices and options that you can see for yourself? So somebody with really little self-esteem is going to have a really narrow viewpoint of like, what are my options? How do I navigate in this situation? Versus someone who is greatly empowered, someone who has really done a lot of work on their self-esteem. They look at that and they can see this wider angle lens of what are my options in this situation? You know, like it's possible to manifest things that don't exist. It's possible to, like, okay, so multiple times in my life, I have been told that that's not possible, and then it happens to me. Or more often than that, it's usually like, that's really, really unlikely. Like, I hear what you're saying that, like, yeah, you want to do that in 6 weeks, but I mean, normally it takes about 6 months. So I just want you to be realistic about what's going to happen here. And then it happens in 6 weeks because that's what I want. And that's the amount of power that I am allowing myself to hold. So the options and the range of possibilities that we have available to us in our life open up when we allow ourselves to hold more power. And we allow ourselves to hold more power. The valve, the dial on that valve is your identity. Who are you? Who are you in this physical 3D reality? Are you a human being or are you God pretending to be human? And the answer to that question and how fervently you believe it is, again, I think a great reflection of like, how much of your power are you letting yourself have? So when we think about Taurus versus Scorpio and like physical power kind of being more the Taurus end and psychic power or energetic power being more the Scorpio end, um, I personally think that, again, the opportunities for self-empowerment this Scorpio season are beyond your wildest imagination. Like, it's incredible how much of your power can be unlocked with a single idea. So, like, you're 30 seconds away from being hugely more powerful than you were 30 seconds ago. Like, the way that we can come into our power, it happens really quickly. I mean, typically those advancements, they've been brewing and simmering for a while, but when it finally happens, when the butterfly is finally fully formed enough that the wings of the butterfly are strong enough to push the cocoon open, the butterfly is free right then and there, and they fly away. So the process of becoming strong enough to see the options that you have available to you such that you can, in something of like a masterful way, take advantage of the options that are available to you in a way where not only do you get to have exactly what you want, which I think is kind of the definition of self-empowerment and self-esteem, is like, you get to have what you want. You get to have what you see for yourself, like what you desire belongs to you, and it's really just for you to claim it. I've been thinking a lot lately that, like, there is literally no end to our ability to allow ourselves to have exactly what we want. There's no end to that. Like, anything that you want, you can have it. Anything. You're God in human form. You have the power to create anything that you want. The only thing that ever stops us from having everything that we want is that most often, if we want something that we're not already living, there's something inside of us. There's a level of our power that's waiting to come online, that's waiting to be awakened. And as we awaken into more and more and more of our power, that's when we're able to find our way onto the pathway that's basically already there. Like, again, this goes back to, like, what do you even believe power really is? Like, where do you believe power comes from? Do you believe that, the one with the most money has the most power? Do you believe that physical resources equal true power? Or do you think that it comes from somewhere deeper? Because I've been on a journey myself where for a time I was prioritizing physical resources, financial security, and the like, and I was stockpiling pennies and dollars in a bank account and a few bank accounts, and they were piling up, and I just seemed to be getting more and more miserable. And the more powerful I became, aka the more money I had, by my old definition of power, it was like I just got less and less happy. And I just saw more and more and more how it's not enough yet. It's not enough yet. It's not enough yet. It's not enough yet. And I think that is a common trap that people can find themselves in, is that they're trying to get the physical security to manifest, and then they'll take some risks, and then they'll, step out and go against the grain, then they'll transform. And I am believing and putting it out there for your contemplation that it happens kind of opposite to that. That, like, again, as your self esteem comes online, you will take risks because you believe in yourself. And based on the risks that you take, because you believe that I have wings, and of course I can jump off this thing because I have wings and I'll just fly. And so you jump and you fly over to your next opportunity where physical abundance is right there waiting for you. But it's like the chicken and the egg. Which one's coming first? And I personally believe, and I'm putting it out there for your contemplation, that our psychic power is driving our entire life. Our ability to tap into the power that is us, the power that is our raw consciousness. The fact that we are alive is a miracle. Okay, so like, the miracle already happened. The jackpot, winning the lottery, it already happened. We were born. We have a body. We're here with consciousness and physical form. We are here with a vessel and a vehicle where you can pull levers and push buttons inside this vehicle, the likes of which I feel like I'm only just beginning to scratch the surface of. And again, it goes back to, how powerful do you believe yourself to be? And I want to talk just a little bit about kind of the range of Scorpio, because so far we're talking empowerment, and that in general is pointing us in a beautiful direction of reminding us that at all times in the 3D reality, we are, every single one of us, fully empowered God beings, like fully empowered creators of our own reality, fully empowered all the time. That's the reality. Illusions come up sometimes where we forget about our power, or we use our power to convince ourselves that we actually are in fact powerless. And so that's kind of the range of Scorpio, is that, you know, it is infinite in both directions as far as empowerment on one and powerlessness on the other side. It goes infinitely in both directions. And you can find yourself at any shade of gray along the way, even like relationship to relationship. Like in some relationships, you're super empowered. And then you go into this other relationship space with this other person and you revert back to the power of like a 5-year-old or a baby. I was dealing with that one the other day. We're like, I'm essentially a baby in this relationship. Okay, cool. So I have the power of a baby. That's good to know. Okay. I got some empowering myself to do on that front. So it's really not even as black and white as like, where are you on this spectrum of empowered to powerless? But it is, you probably have a general sense of like, on average, where are you on this spectrum? And then, like I said, like relationship to relationship, connection to connection, who is kind of inviting you and pulling you more into your power, and who is requiring that you shrink down out of your power in order to fit into that relationship. And as you're more and more in your power, you get to decide, who do you want to spend your time with? That's really like the main resource that we have here in the physical, is our time. Spending our time is the most precious resource that you can be intentional with. Money is a good one too, of course, but how you spend your time and giving it to things where you're spending your power to promote or to invest or to contribute to such and such, and what is the reciprocity of this relationship? You know, is it harvesting energy from you? Is it like a slave kind of dynamic where you give and 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 like you get nothing in return? Or is it, I give this and they give this other thing, which is basically equal value? And so we trade back and forth. It's reciprocal. So again, like, it's really, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, do you want to continue to merge power with this connection and this connection and this connection, kind of like individually across your whole life? What are the connections that are feeding you more of who you are? And what are the connections that are pulling you down away from more of who you are? And again, you're the only one that's going to know that. And you're the only one that's going to know if you need to use your power to end any of those connections. Like if there's one that isn't reciprocal, where you give and you know that, and they don't really give to you, but you choose to keep it because, you know, I'm really paying it forward, because this relationship over here, mostly that person gives to me, and I try to give in return, but they're mostly good to go. So I mostly pay it forward to this person over here. So I choose to engage in this kind of like one directional relationship, because I'm giving what I've received from like further upstream over here from this relationship. So like, again, there's no right or wrong. Like, you don't have to exclusively be in reciprocal relationships and exclusively burn bridges with people who don't give you what you give to them. Like, it's a creative choice. And that is the beauty of Scorpio energy, I think, is that it's incredibly creative, it's incredibly generative, it's incredibly formative. As far as like, you think about, one of the Scorpio archetypes is the phoenix rising from the ashes. And the whole concept of like, you know, the next level of like, if there's something that you want that you're not yet living, it's like the you are today is going to burn to ash, and from those ashes a new one will rise. And there's so many people that are like, make me the phoenix and then I'll light myself on fire. And it's like, again, it doesn't really work like that. Like, you have to be willing to let go of the old And you have to be willing to, like, within your powers, say, this is not what I need it to be, and therefore, like, I'm not going to engage in it anymore. So basically, like, energetic boundaries, which again, I think is something that Scorpio really excels at. So during this time of Scorpio season for the collective, we get to look at kind of like taking an energetic balance sheet of like, where are you sending energy out? Where are you receiving energy? How does it all shake out in terms of you and how you feel, how secure you feel from the inside out? Remember, true power, true security, I personally believe, is something that exists inside of us. It's nothing that can be bought or purchased or accumulated in the physical realm. It's something that we tap into by swimming into the depths of our soul. And with that in mind, it's like, Scorpio, another of its best talents is that it has the stomach, it has the willingness to witness the human 3D life experience, the truth of what that is. And, that's where people with heavy Scorpio energy in general, they live in that already all the time, as far as like really having a lack of rose-colored glasses as far as like what the world really is, the danger that's present, the threat that's present, lurking in almost every single human being's subconscious. Like, if you've ever watched Yellow Jackets, like, I mean, the things that we're capable of as humans, like as human animals, like our willingness to survive, I mean, it doesn't take even very much starvation at all to turn a human feral. Um, I mean, the things that we're capable of, it gets so dark so fast when you really start looking at what the 3D reality is. But the good news is, and Scorpio knows this better than anybody, which is like, the darkest of the dark is reciprocal to the lightest of the light. Right? Again, there's another spectrum that goes infinitely in both directions. It gets darker, 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 darker forever, and it gets light, 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 light forever. So the option for an individual, for a creator, an extension of God energy in human form, as the creator of your reality, you get to tune into the spectrum of human experience that exists on this planet. And sometimes that's easier to do on purpose than others. The times when it's easiest is when we have a lot of momentum going in our power. We have some really tight energetic boundaries where we're happily existing inside of our own choices, like we get to decide what our life is. So at that point, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier to tune your dial on purpose. And earlier on, and still sometimes, even once you are tuning your dial on purpose, it's like the option, the possibility that there is in Scorpio season and Scorpio energy in general is that when we feel our own powerlessness, typically that is when we attract an opponent of some kind to reflect back to us our perception of our own powerlessness. And what that looks like in way simpler language is like, you got a bully. You got somebody that just like won't fucking leave you alone, and like they don't care who you really are. That's really not what it's about. They're there to step on you and to ultimately, I think, this is my hypothesis, my theory based on my own life experience. I'll have to run a few more tests and get back to you, but my theory is that they crack us open into our power by pissing us off. Right? Like at a certain point, when you're being bullied, you get to a point where I can't fucking take this anymore. And you will sacrifice yourself to like hurl your power and yourself at the situation of like, this situation is coming to an end. I'm going to set this situation on fire. It's not going to exist anymore. And I understand in doing that, I'm going to burn my current self to the ground along with it. And I will rise from the ashes. Potentially the situation itself could rise from the ashes, but everything will take on a new form because I am fed up with this. I am sick of this. And it is my fervent belief that when we are mistreated by others, they are some of the, I mean, basically my understanding that my spiritual support, my ancestors have told me is like your bullies, those are us. Like my spiritual support took on the form of these assholes to come into my experience and work with me so that I could have these breaking points, so that I could stop looking at the opinions of other people as my source of information about who I was and how powerful I was. Like, look at, here's this bully who thinks they can treat me like this. And yes, at first it's definitely tempting to kind of like just pull inward on yourself and kind of double down on the illusion of your own powerlessness. It's like, see, here's this bully that's being mean to me, and like I can't even do anything about it because my boss likes them better, like whatever it is. Like we like double down on the illusion of like, why is it that we don't have the power to change it? And eventually, again, like my ancestors are like, yeah, that's us. And we push and we push and we push and we push. The bully pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes to get you to crack open into your power. And I feel some heavy hearts as far as like current situations that are mistreating you and giving you things that you don't deserve that. And the only thing that's necessary to shift this situation is for you to believe that you don't deserve the treatment that they're giving you. It goes full circle into the beginning of our self-esteem and the amount of power that we have within us, that we're holding within us. How open our valve is for the God consciousness that we are to be the one creating our life. It's like you've always got options. There are always options. Like when you merge with non-physical, when you tap into infinite intelligence, there are options always. And maybe they don't set you free right now, like right this minute, right this second. But if you will believe in your own power, there's always an option that not only gets you out of the situation that you wish to be out of, but it does so. Like, think about this. Like, yes, you want out of that situation. Like, I'm kind of assuming that this is like something that's going on for multiple in the collective. It's like you're in the middle of a situation that feels like it's boxing you in. It's like taking your power. It's not reciprocal. It's like something that you would like to see come to an end. And with that, when we will allow our beliefs, like our God consciousness, to lean in day by day by day to what it is that we truly want. You know, like, is it that you want out of here, or that you want a reciprocal environment? You want to work in a place where, you know, my energy is appreciated and reciprocated, and that there's appreciation flowing freely between all of us. And like, you know, there's a big difference between pushing against what's wrong with what you're currently experiencing and tuning in to what is the beauty of what you want. And then one of the other superpowers about the sun in Scorpio is patience. And that is largely because of the earth being in Taurus. Having the patience to work with the leverage of the universe to give yourself what you want. Give yourself what you ultimately deserve, what you know yourself to deserve. Give yourself access to the path that already exists for you. You know, like, it's not, the path is yours. You have the key. You just walk up to the gate, turn the key, walk onto the path. It's already right there. Like, there's really nothing even for us to create in the life that we want other than claiming it and letting ourselves transform out of the situation that we're currently in. And what I want to say about that is, are you willing to let it transform, knowing that to burn the situation to the ground, you have to burn yourself to the ground with it? You have to stop being the person who needs the external validation, is kind of one example of what that means. Like, you need to stop being the person who relies on the financial support of another person. You need to stop being the person who is a magnet for the situation that you're in. To end the situation is just to end the version of you that brought that situation to you in the first place. Stop being that person. Let yourself have access to more of your power, and let your life become a reflection of your newfound empowerment. That's what's possible. And I do see so many supportive transits happening throughout Scorpio season. It's kind of like jam-packed, I would say. Again, I cannot recommend enough Aubrey Starr's channel, her YouTube channel, where she's doing day by day transit readings. It's so helpful for grounding into the intensity of this time. So I'm going to go through the notable aspects and talk about these just a little bit in terms of how it might play out and support what we've already been talking about. So on October 23rd, which at the time I'm recording this, that is this coming Monday, we have the sun entering Scorpio at 0 degrees, the earth entering Taurus at 0 degrees. And at the time of Scorpio season coming online, we have 5 planets currently retrograde: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Chiron. So lots of fuel contributing to diving into our inner depths and kind of taking this soul inventory, this soul level balance sheet of where are you at in your own personal energetics. So because of the position of Saturn retrograde is currently at 0 degrees of Pisces, meaning because Pisces is a water sign, Scorpio is a water sign, when the sun enters Scorpio on the 23rd, just that very next day on the 24th, is the exact trine, the exact supportive passage of energy between the sun in Scorpio at 0 degrees and Saturn retrograde at 0 degrees of Pisces. These two coming into contact, into that harmonious aspect, is bound to, like, I used a little envelope with the heart, like a message of love, a message of, like, that Saturn in Pisces wants you to have more love for who you are. And that Saturn in Pisces is real sick and fucking tired of all of the bullshit excuses you use to keep yourself out of the love that you deserve, the divine love that is the God that you are an extension of. Saturn in Pisces is trying to wipe that window clean once and for all as best it can. So yeah, I would fully expect that Saturn in Pisces at 0 degrees, Saturn retrograde no less, at 0 degrees, trining the sun in Scorpio at 0 degrees, that will be a message of love, a powerful, like, again, like a force, like a cleansing through the pipes of having reflected to you, like, the bullshit disempowerment that you keep yourself in, those patterns where you talk yourself out of the magnificent being that you are. It's like, enough already. Enough with the helpless routine. It's just not true. Enough already. Okay. So, and that Saturn, like 3D, like structure, the father archetype, the tough love archetype that, you know, it loves you, but it also, like, isn't gonna pat your ass when you're on fire. It's like, you, like, here, let me put you out. Let me give you some practical advice that, like, actually helps you to improve your life. So, like, Saturn's not messing around. It's got something to say to you about your empowerment. And I'm looking forward to that personally. So that'd be on Tuesday this coming week, if you're catching this at the time I'm releasing it. And then just shortly right after that, so like that Sun Saturn trine, I mean, it will be exact on the 24th, but even as the sun moves to 1, 2, 3, like, it'll still be receiving kind of that whole time leading up to the full moon lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Taurus that's happening on October 28th at 3:23 p.m. Central Time. So that's on Saturday. That, holy shit, like, that's probably one of the key events. I mean, this is one of the key events for like the whole year of 2023 being one of the eclipses, and the fact that this is the last eclipse that's happening in Taurus and Scorpio for like 8 years, because the nodes just finished up in Taurus, Scorpio. The eclipses always happen, I think it's within 17 degrees of where the nodes are. So when the nodes are super close to the border between two signs, you'll get like these mixed eclipses, like how we just had the Libra new moon solar eclipse. Now we're having a Taurus eclipse. So yeah, the next time we have eclipses in the spring of 2024, they'll both be happening on Aries Libra. So a little fun fact for you there. So all of that week, kind of Monday through Friday, we're getting that Sun trining Saturn download of upping the love that you can feel in your system and how that illuminates the blocks that are like kind of pushing against it, like the blocks in your deservability. Since I mentioned deservability, check out the deservability treatment if that's something that jumps out at you. Highly recommend, as far as like clearing the pipes and believing that you are powerful and that you deserve all good things. And so then on the 28th, we have the lunar eclipse, and that is, I would say, like a physical manifestation of what came through that Saturn retrograde message. Like, here is a wild up leveling of love coming off of Saturn and Pisces. And then here's the full moon in Taurus, along with Jupiter, Uranus. Back on the Scorpio side, we've got Mercury and Mars, plus the sun. Like, it's an intense lunar eclipse. I highly recommend. There's several good videos out there specifically diving into that lunar eclipse, especially where we'll have, at the time of the lunar eclipse, is the Mercury Mars conjunction in Scorpio, I believe at 11 degrees, opposite Jupiter and Taurus at 11 degrees. Happens to be that powerful hunk of energy. I mean, that would be intense expansion of your mental clarity, of your own empowerment and the actions and options that are available to you. Like, that would be fucking intense on any day of the year. And it happens to be on the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus, the last one for 8 years. So this culmination, this Mac Daddy, this grand finale Taurus eclipse, from everything that we have been going through since January 2022, when the nodes entered Taurus Scorpio. So this is a huge energy climax over the last couple of years that is going to show us the physical manifestation of, how much of our power we have brought online in the time since, the nodes kind of moved into Taurus Scorpio. And really, I think the first eclipse was in November it was like a Taurus eclipse, Taurus full moon lunar eclipse that we had in November of 2021. And so this is like kind of completing a full 2 years later of, who are you now? Who are you now, and what options do you have available to you now? Shortly after the full moon lunar eclipse on the 28th, and keep in mind too that eclipses they're same as a full moon, meaning that there's like a culmination point, there's a manifestation point of something like popping into your hologram based on the energetic work that's come before, like the seeds that you sowed. Last time there was a Taurus new moon, which would have been earlier this spring. Now that it's the Taurus full moon, like 6 months later, you're kind of like seeing what those seeds have grown into. But because this is an eclipse, it's kind of like seeds that you planted your whole life / multiple lifetimes. And what's growing, it doesn't just like unfold for 6 months. It like brings you things that unfold for the rest of your life, potentially. Fortunes and abundance and physical resources that will support you for many, 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 many years to come, that you've only been able to secure for yourself due to the added empowerment that you've been able to pack on and like allow through your vessel these last couple of years. So I do think that full moon lunar eclipse, can't state it enough, October 28th is going to be a big deal. And the results, I think, give it 6 months and see how that initial, like, you catching the first glimpse of what that manifestation is, kind of the weekend of the 28th, but really like give it 6 months and see if you're not basically living a completely different life. Like if you wouldn't look around at the physical 3D version of your life and be like, nothing is the same as what I was living back in October of 2023. So keep an eye out for that, like here around April of 2024, see where you're at. And again, I'll bet it's completely different than what it is now. The next one on the list is Saturn stationing direct at 0 degrees. So by this time, the sun has kind of moved on. It's like about halfway through Scorpio by now. So not an aspect to Saturn, but Saturn is stationing direct on November 3rd. And with that, then moving forward, clear up until it goes retrograde again, probably like early next summer-ish. So we have, 6-7 months of Saturn moving direct. And what that means is that these last few months of Saturn retrograde, we have been really taking inventory again, because Saturn is in Pisces. We're looking at like what structures are kind of like leaking love out of our life to where we are essentially a bottomless pit for love. Like no matter how much love you put in, there's this like toxic relationship right here, for example, that like is tearing down your self-esteem. So like even though maybe your job's going really well and like that's really helping to build up like your confidence in yourself and your self-respect, every time the volume in the bucket rises, like there's a hole in the bucket. This toxic relationship comes in and like starts tearing you back down. So Saturn retrograde has been asking us like, where are the holes in the bucket? Where are you leaking love out of your being? What are the relationships that are not reciprocal, where they're taking your love, but they're not returning it to you? Where are you leaking love in your life? And really on a bigger question, like where are you leaking energy? And Saturn retrograde has really helped to put a lot of that in perspective for us, as far as like, what are the patterns and the choices that you personally are engaging in that is causing your energy to dissipate, so that when it comes time to apply yourself to things that you really love and deeply care about, that you don't have any energy. Like you're trying to put out this fire that's burning your favorite thing, but like, dude, your bucket's empty because there's a giant hole in it. Like you've been putting water in it this whole time thinking water's in there, and it's been leaking out. And so then you go to use the water that's in there and there is no water because it's been leaking. Like a bucket that leaks is, talk about infuriating. Okay. Like something that physically does not work, and it is causing your life to slow down. It's causing your life to, basically keeping you where you are instead of letting you have enough level in your boat. Like you think about, I'm seeing like the Panama Canal, where like the channels that there are, where the boat has to move through one piece at a time. Like it comes into this part of it and then the water fills and it moves it up to this next one. And like then the water fills and it moves it up to this next one. Like, I don't even know if that's the Panama Canal, but I think there's something like that on the face of the planet. And it's like that, where in order to get to this next level of the path that you want to be living, you need to let the water rise beneath you and it'll like float your ship right up there. But like so many people in this world, their buckets are leaking all over the place. They're overgiving. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not valuing what they're giving to other people such that they're expecting it to be reciprocal. There's so many different ways where we end up with an empty bucket at a time when it matters most. And that's what's truly heartbreaking, is when something that you love is on fire and there's no water in your bucket. So that's maybe something to say here that is very Saturnian, very 3D, as in terms of like the physical reality represents limitation. Like that's kind of the whole point. Is that, a lot of times Saturn and Pisces, like it can be really hard to say no. It can be really hard to say no to certain people or certain things, or maybe your job, like you're, I'm seeing like a nurse or somebody else in healthcare where it's like, we're understaffed. There's all these people who need care. And, so I work 90 hours a week. Like, that's okay. It's fine. And it's like, is it fine? Is it really? Like, I don't know. That's really up to you. Only you can be the judge of that. But it's like when we are overexpending ourselves such that we don't leave any resources for ourselves, we just kind of stay stuck and stagnant in the place where we are. Meanwhile, this Aries North node that we're living under for 18 months, it is asking us to evolve into like the next level of ourself, of like Who were you born to be? What was the mission that like propelled you into the physical, got you to claim a body so that you could be here? Why? Why were you doing that? And so none of us are meant to really just like sit still in this place and be like, yeah, I guess it's fine. It's like, no, like we have a mission. We have a reason for being here. And, you know, part of these next 6 months unfolding is Pluto leaving Capricorn and moving into Aquarius, which I think is also going to kind of like turn up the dial on the urgency of you're going to want some water in your bucket. Okay. And that's like the easiest way I can say it without alarming anyone. Like it's just now is the time for self-care. Now is the time for severe, strict, energetic boundaries. Now is the time for patching and plugging or even replacing the whole bucket if you can't get the holes to shut. This is the time for conserving your energetic resources, because what's coming, what's on the horizon is even greater intensity, even greater soul calling, like the volume of what you're being called into as far as living the life that you came here to live. It's only getting louder and louder and louder. So in order to answer that call, in order to have enough volume to float you up to the path where you can like just easily walk over to where you need to be, the best thing you can do for yourself right now is to make that energetic balance sheet, find where energy is going out, find where it's coming in, make sure it balances in the way that you need it to, and get clear on conserving your precious resources. So yes, your money, but mostly your time and energy. Make sure that when you give your time and energy to something, that it is on purpose, because this is valuable and I want to be investing in this. Anything where you're doing it just because like, you know, this is just kind of where I'm at and, you know, I don't really want to move on. I'm comfortable here. Like those kinds of things. Like I'm scared of what people might think, or, you know, my family won't like that, or my husband won't like that, or like whatever it is that we're like using that as the illusion to keep ourselves where we are, keep ourselves stuck. That full moon lunar eclipse and Pluto moving into Aquarius has the likelihood to be taking things away from us. Like, you know, the Uranus Jupiter conjunction that's happening in April of 2024, that is a huge turning point where we will be accelerated onto or on the path or onto the path that our individual soul, our individual extension of God energy came here to walk. And imagine if you ignore the call for the next 6 months. I mean, you just keep your life the way it is. And that's basically leaving anything that you leave stagnant. It's like that's what the universe will break apart to free you onto your path. So in the next 6 months, you can leave it all the same and the universe will tear it down for you in April, or you can intentionally be engaging in these micro transformations where, you know, one person at a time, you lean into, is this relationship in harmony with me? Is this what I want? Is this situation what I want? Is this job what I want? And answering those questions willingly will make the Uranus Jupiter conjunction, like if you're already on your path, right? Like you already dissolved your old self and you're now standing firmly on your path already, and the Jupiter Uranus conjunction comes through, it's basically like a jetpack on your back as far as like creating progress faster than like the world has ever seen, like faster than the speed of light, faster than a speeding bullet. Like this is all what I'm getting as far as like it's rocket fuel to propel you forward onto the work your soul came here to do, right? Like the whole reason you incarnated was because God, you thought that this mission was worth doing. And God is, you know, Saturn in Pisces, essentially Neptune in Pisces, like the waiting period is over. It's time to step up and it's time to be consciously embodied as the extension of source energy that you are. It's time to give yourself your full power, to let yourself hold it, and to let your full power integrate any of the blocks that are in the way. that believe I don't deserve this, that believe I haven't earned it yet, that believe like I'm too ugly to get that. Like there's so many different freaking ways where we can talk ourselves out of our own magnificence. And enough is enough. This is the end of that. These are the last 6 months. We're on the home stretch. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And how we choose to spend these next 6 months is completely up to each and every one of us. And each and every one of us is having a smooth or a rough ride based on how it is that we're navigating these times. Before I go on, if you like the content, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like on that thing, leave me a comment, pop up in the chat over here. I love getting to interact with you guys. I'm going to hang out at the end. So if you have any Scorpio questions, you can leave those and I'll answer those when I get through the transits here. Thank you so much for being here with me. This is one of my favorite things that I get to do, these live streams. And I do thank you for those of you who join me in person. That's a lot of fun to get to hang out with you guys. So we're picking back up at the Sun opposite Jupiter retrograde at 10 degrees of Taurus on November 3rd. So if you're tracking, you see that that's happening the same freaking day as Saturn stationing direct. And all of that reconnaissance that we've been doing with Saturn retrograde in Pisces is like, where's the bucket leaking? What do I need to change? How can I patch the holes in my bucket? And then Saturn stations direct, and pretty much all of that intelligence that we've been gathering, all of that strategizing and structuring that we've been doing internally, it then starts moving forward in the physical, in the 3D with Saturn stationing direct on the 3rd. And that I got to think again that that's going to be freaking supercharged because on that day, same day, November 3rd, happens to be that that's when the sun is going to oppose Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, which 10 degrees is also where my Pluto is. So that means the sun will be on my Pluto while Jupiter is opposite my Pluto. Like I can't wait. I think it's going to be great because like, dude, Pluto and Scorpio and Mars, like they are in a three-way love affair pretty much. And all of them are the biggest fans of us being in our power. And all three, the Pluto, Scorpio, and Mars, and even the sun, which is like right in the middle of all of this, like they want us to be our full God consciousness self. So the fact that Saturn stations direct on the same day that the sun is opposing Jupiter, which that sun opposite Jupiter, you know, the sun's going to be moving about a degree a day. So about 2 or 3 days on either side of November 3rd will be that sun opposite Jupiter, which only happens once a year. So that's kind of a big deal. The sun being our core identity, the sun being like our conscious personality, and Jupiter being our spirituality, our beliefs, our philosophy about life, our path of expansion and abundance, all of that coming into an opposition, which is typically a tense aspect, meaning potential conflict or sparks. But like a spark is a catalyst. A spark sets a fire potentially that burns something to ash that needed to burn to ash so that you could rise from those ashes as the phoenix that you really are. So, I mean, that looks like a very exciting day. Saturn stationing direct and the sun opposing Jupiter all on the same day. Early November promises a burst of our self-empowerment. Very exciting. And we get to kind of let that settle a little bit. We get 10 days thereabouts between November 3rd and November 13th without really any notable transits. I mean, there are still things that are going on during that time, but nothing to this magnitude. So on November 13th, we have the new moon in Scorpio. So the new moon always starts a new 4-week lunar cycle. And right now, and for most of Scorpio season, the first 20 days thereabouts of Scorpio season, we are under the Libra new moon. So yeah, the Libra new moon solar eclipse even. And that's another one where it'll take several months to really show us the fruit of that eclipse, if you will. And so with the new moon in Scorpio, it's like, you know, look at everything that we have already done in Scorpio season. And we're like just now getting to the Scorpio new moon. So the main event of that Scorpio new moon, I think, is really expanding into, again, like the key word being empowerment, like really expanding into what are the options that you can see? What pathways do you have access to? Maybe not in the physical just yet, but energetically, you have the power to create what? And think about, like, this is November 13th, so not quite a month from now. In the next 3 weeks, like, how much more of your power is coming online based on all of these transits and activations that we've been talking about? And then it's like, now we get to, from that more empowered place, we get to look at, like, basically the question of the new moon, I think, could be, what is the correct use of power in the 3D? What is the correct use of power in the 3D? We talk a lot in the spiritual community about self-empowerment and getting into your power. And that's all well and good. And you notice, like, here we are 50 some minutes into this, and that's pretty much what we've been talking about here, because that's where you need to be, is in your power. But what about when you get there? What about when you are empowered? You are fully empowered. You are freaking God in human form, and you can pull the levers of the universe. You can push the buttons of the universe. You can create whatever you want. What is the proper use of power on this planet, in this 3D realm? What is the proper way to use your power? And you get to decide, right? Like, you get to unlock as much of your own power within yourself as you choose, and you get to decide what you do with that power once you have it. And that's where we each have free will. And, you get to use it for whatever you want. You're not free of the consequences of what you do with your power, but you do get to choose to use it however you want. And so that Scorpio new moon, I think, is going to bring us face to face with basically planting the seeds that are going to unfold then during Scorpio season, Sagittarius season. Scorpio new moon planting seeds that are going to unfold throughout most of Sagittarius season will be, what is your philosophy about the right way to use power on this planet? And the thing is, like, again, it's so much easier to gripe and complain about somebody's using their power in a way I don't like, and they're doing bad things with their power, and they shouldn't be doing that. And dude, become powerful yourself and set a different example. Like, you get your access to your power, and then you do something different with it. You show us how it's done. It's really easy. It's like the cheap seats to critique how other people do things and how other people use their power. It's really getting down in the arena, getting muddy and bloody with everybody else that's in the arena, to actually do the work to come into your own power and then decide, what do you think is the right way to use it? Because somebody who's unlocked their power and they're using it in ways that you don't agree with, that's none of your goddamn business, okay? Just like it's nobody else's business how you choose to use yours, okay? So the sooner you can come into your own power, man. And there's actually a quote that I'm going to read you. Man in the Arena quote. It's by Theodore Roosevelt, but Brene Brown talks a lot about it. Okay, the man in the arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Love it. Cold and timid souls. Those are the ones that sit around talking about how everybody else should do it different. And this Scorpio season is about diving into the depths of your own soul, facing your own stored pain, and trauma potentially that still live in your body, such that you can integrate those wounds and open yourself up to more of your own power in the process, such that you have access to greater energetic resources, such that you can apply them however you want. You can make whatever you want in this world. What is the proper way to use power? You get to answer that question. The more power you have, the more loud your answer is. Oh, we're not even done yet, because, oh my God, on that, same as on the the full moon lunar eclipse, where we have at the same time as the full moon lunar eclipse, we also have Mercury, Mars opposing Jupiter. On the new moon in Scorpio, on November 13th, we also have the sun and moon, which is forming the new moon, opposite to Uranus at 20 degrees of Taurus. So the full moon is happening not exactly opposite Jupiter necessarily, but like in decent range of the sun opposite Jupiter. And we have Mercury, Mars opposite Jupiter. So like that's huge. And then the new moon in Scorpio opposite Uranus. Like for that to land exactly feels like a cosmic activation for the collective of, again, it is time to step into your individuality. Spirit is done playing with you and your powerlessness. Like that game is over now. And getting into our own power is the work of this season of our life. And using that power to seal any of the holes that are in our bucket, such that we have the greatest energetic resources possible available to us. Because again, on the horizon, there is a fire that you will want to be able to put out. And watching that fire burn, knowing that you left your bucket empty and chose to not do anything about it, is a heartbreak that I hope this video helps to prevent from anybody who gets to see this message. Is like, it's coming, and you have a choice of how much water you have to dump on that fire when it gets here. And that water, that energetic resource, is based on your self-care, based on your energetic boundaries, based on how many times are you saying no. And I want to reassure you that every time you say no, you're not letting someone down. You're not disappointing someone. I mean, maybe you are, but really what you're doing is saying yes to where those resources will eventually be spent. And so stockpiling your energy, taking care of your energy so that you have an abundance when the time comes and it matters most to you personally, you'll see that fire, and hopefully you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I've been stockpiling my resources. And you'll put it out and you'll save the thing that was so valuable that you didn't want to see destroyed. You know, you'll use your own power, the leverage of your power to prevent disaster. And that's possible when you have the power at your disposal. And if you've spent it willy-nilly, saying yes to things that you don't freaking care about, and now your bucket's empty, or you're putting up with toxic relationships that are tearing you down spiritually, leaking water out of your bucket, now your bucket's empty, and now there's a fire in front of you that you have no power to change anything about that outcome. Again, that is a heartbreak that I hope this video helps to prevent. The last transit of Scorpio season that I'm going to touch on is the sun trining Neptune. So again, I think that one, it's like we come in with the sun at 0 trining Saturn retrograde at 0 Pisces. So we start with a trine from Pisces and we end the season with a trine from Pisces. So it's like we begin with a wave of unconditional love and we end with a wave of unconditional love. And both of those waves are coming to help you to know your own goodness, help you to trust that you deserve to be fully empowered. You can trust yourself to be fully empowered. You're good. You are an extension of source energy. You are full of love. And if anyone should have power, it's you, so that you can use that power to put more love on the planet, right? What is the proper way to use power in the 3D? My hypothesis is that you use it to make more love. You use your power, you use your vessel, you use your voice, you use your physical body, you use every resource at your disposal to put more love onto the planet, to disrupt the patterns of hate and prejudice and inequality and slavery and anything else that you find horribly offensive to your soul. You use your power to put more love on the planet by disrupting and integrating anything that's standing in the way. This is your option. This is your choice as an extension of God in human form. And I feel like I'm basically begging you to like step into your power. And hopefully the waves of love that are coming off of that Pisces energy are only going to make it that much easier for us to do this, for us to feel our connection to our own divinity and to trust that as a solid, if not majority stake of our identity, right? And then bet on ourselves based on who we know ourselves to be. Dude, I think that's pretty awesome little endpoint here. And then we have the sun moving into Sagittarius on November 22nd, thus ending Scorpio season 2023. So if you have anything else that you would like to put in the chat, I'm going to read through here. And then I will probably call it good. I'm really looking forward to Scorpio season. I really thank you guys for joining me for this live stream. Again, if you liked it, leave a thumbs up on the video. Share it with your friends if there's anybody that you think might enjoy this content, might enjoy having this heads up about these next 6 months and really these next 30 days. I appreciate every single one of you that are using your power to put more love onto the planet. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jay. Thank you. Jay says, can't stay, but looking forward to watching the rest. I cannot overstate how much this has been resonating for me as a natal North Node Taurus. Sending you love. Sending you love right back. You guys, all you Taurus North Nodes around my channel, I freaking love you. I had no idea that we were going to be soul family like this, but here we are. And I just cannot say enough how affirming and empowering it has been for me personally, for you all to join this community and to share your own experiences and to let me see into your own journey of empowerment and the uncanny similarities that I have with your path as a Taurus rising is all I am. I'm a Taurus rising. I have Taurus Jupiter and then Scorpio descendant and Scorpio Pluto. So like that's my 1st and 7th house. And then, yeah, for whatever reason, Taurus North nodes just flock into this space. And I think it's friggin' awesome. Liz says, I've always heard that Taurus was born to sit still in one place. LOL. I think you could say Taurus represents stillness. It represents peace. It represents our body being at equilibrium, which I think is part of how that stillness actually comes into being, is that the energetic body and the physical body are in equilibrium. And like the unstillness or the frenzy that can come from some of the other archetypes, especially Scorpio, is like you're off of equilibrium. And that's like that frenzy, that Mars energy is like action, action, action. I need action to put me back into equilibrium. Usually that's like where that action impulse is coming from. And so, yeah, I think Taurus definitely can represent the stillness into the spectrum, but also Taurus brings in the element of patience. Taurus brings in that element of like the long-term view, the understanding of the natural physical world that says like in the 3D, nothing happens overnight, right? If I plant seeds today, I'm not going to go back out there tomorrow and be like, where the hell is my corn, right? Like Taurus has the patience, which is to say the understanding of I planted the seeds today, so I'm going to come back here in like a couple months and I'm going to, spray for pests. And then here in a few months after that, I'm going to come back with my combine and I'm going to harvest this thing. Like, there's a process to it. So this work of empowerment, this work of unlocking more and more of our power inside of ourselves, and then watching how that ripples into the 3D, pulling on the Taurus superpower of patience and understanding about, the power can come online inside of you, like literally in an instant. Like you're one idea away from having a whole rush more of your power flowing through you. And just because you're more empowered than you were 5 minutes ago doesn't necessarily mean your life is any different, right? Like the power coming online doesn't change what's going on in the 3D. The power coming online lets you make a different choice about what you do going forward. So having your power unlocked during Scorpio season, remember to stay in that patient, still place of realizing that once you have the power, you can use it. You can use it to make your life whatever you want to be, but just because you have it doesn't mean you're automatically going to just have your desired life like rain down on you. There's choices and effort and action to be taken to accomplish anything in the 3D, but anything that you're going to do in the 3D starts in the energetic realm, right? Like that Sun trine Saturn retrograde. Like there is something in non-physical that wants to exist for you, but it's up on the path of your more empowered self. And so you getting yourself up there is helping something in the non-physical come through into physical existence that wants to be born. And I would bet money that it wants to add more love to the planet. That Saturn in Pisces has a very specific mission of like wanting there to be more divine love in human form, which is beautiful and a little bit pie in the sky, which is great for Pisces and long term, and will take patience to see it play out in the physical, but it doesn't happen big picture in the physical unless it happens like literally one spark at a time inside of each individual. So I think that's going to do it for today. Again, I thank you so much for joining me for this Scorpio season contemplation. Feel free to come back to it as we make our way through Scorpio season. Again, as more of your power comes online, I would imagine this message is going to sound different every time you unlock more of your power. Maybe there's more little nuggets inside this message that didn't even land before because you didn't have enough of your power to be able to hear them. I find that regularly. Again, on Aubrey Starr's video, I mentioned her 3 times now. You guys got to go check her out. You really need to, apparently. She does such a great job of connecting the dots with what is unfolding day to day. And I can watch one of her videos for like, there will often be like a Monday, Tuesday video, for example, where like I'll watch it Monday morning when she releases it, and then I'll watch it again Tuesday afternoon and hear something completely different because I've evolved in the last like day and a half. So any of you who feel like the evolution of your spirit is happening almost faster than you can handle, you need to head over to Aubrey Starr's channel and catch on to her day by day transit unfolding. There is so much energy working to evolve our consciousness right now. And if it's giving you whiplash, you're in good company and there are spaces to support you. So I'm going to link that down in the description when I get off here. Until next time, dear friends, you take such good care of yourselves. It's been my pleasure to be with you. I'll see you next time for the Sagittarius season contemplation. That will be on November 17th at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. UK time. Until next time, take really good care, and so will I. Okay, bye. See you later.